Hello.
How are you, Mario?
Good.
Shavua Tov, everyone.
What, Kaya?
Shavua Tov. Oh, Betty. Hello.
No, Shabbat Tov.
Shavua Tov.
Shavua Tov. Hi, Bernie.
It's off, Mario. Hello. Hello, everybody.
Good luck,
Hello.
Bernie.
Okay, so go. Yeah. There we go. There we go.
Shavua Tov. I thought Ernie said 8:30 today.
No, 8.
8
Next week.
next week. Mhm.
Why, what's the difference? Shabbos comes out later.
Because they're moving the clock tonight.
Yes.
So we gain lose an hour.
So,
Shabbat Tov, everybody.
Shabbat Tov.
Shavua Tov.
Hello, everybody.
Ernie, Shabbat Tov.
Shabbat Tov, Peggy.
Can we dedicate our learning for the Refuah Shlema of Alta Brina Bras Rachel?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Alta Brina Bas Rachel, that's the learning should go for a Refuah Shlema.
Amen. Thank you.
Yeah, you can use that siddur. You can use that. We are on Perek Aleph, Pasuk Hey. That's where we left off. We learned last week. Good walk, everybody.
Hello.
Yes, we learned last week that David HaMelech is old. He's 70 years old. He's not well. He cannot be kept warm by begodim, by anything. So they bring Avishaga Shunamit to keep him warm. We went through the whole discussion, what was her status, and how was this allowed. So now we get to the crux of this perek, which actually has a little connection to the introduction. Vadoniyahu ben Chagit, Vadoniyahu, the son of David HaMelech, whose mother was Chagit, mitnaseh lemor ani emloch. He is attempting to declare himself king. Mitnaseh means mitpaer, mitkaer. He's haughty. He's showing the world that he's the king. How does he do it? Vayaslo rechev ufarashim. He has chariots. He has horses. V'chamishim ish ratzim lefanav. And he has 50 people running in front of him like an entourage, like his personal bodyguard. Rashi says, quoting the Gemara in Sanhedrin Chaf Aleph on the base, Netulei Chol, v'chakuke kapois raglayim. Their spleens were removed, and it's like the soles of their feet had been like scraped. Both of these things have been done to make them fast. We have other places in Chazal where David HaMelech's soldiers undergone these kind of procedures. Now it's very interesting. He's showing basically that he's revolting against the king against David, while similar to Avshalom, while David's alive, and he's doing things that are opposite to what a Jewish king is supposed to do. Number one, it says in Dvorim, Perek Yud Zayin Pasuk Chav, Livilti rum levavo me'echav. A king should not have a hearty heart. He should feel like he's like a regular person. He should not be a mitnasei, a mitga'eh, right? Then it says, lo yarbelo susim. A Jewish king should not have too many horses. Immediately he starts off with a lot of horses. Now again, I want to point out we've been learning the Vav HaChibur. Whenever you see a pasuk, you have to ask, like ve'ela hamishpatim. Why doesn't it just say Eila hamishpatim? It says ve'ela with a vav HaChibur, connecting it to the previous Parshas Yisro. Even we started this Sefer Melachim with Vayhi, right? How did it started also with a Vav HaChibur. It says V'Hamelech David Zakein. Why not just say Hamelech David Zakein? It connects to what happened prior. And in fact, now it says V'Adoniyahu. Adoniyahu saw the status of his father David. Weak, in bed, he's not able to protest. Adoniyahu felt he could do whatever he wanted. Not only that, Chazal will tell us, and not only Chazal, but later on, the Psukim will tell us that Adoniyahu wanted to marry Abishag, Ashunamit. And we've already learned that what a king has, a regular commoner cannot use. However, if Adoniyahu becomes Melech, he could have shaykhs to Abishag. We already learned last week, David didn't have relations with Abishag, so it would not be prohibited for the son to marry Abishag. So that's the connection, that's the Vav HaChibur. And the Gemara, in that same Gemara, Sanhedrin Chaf Aleph, says, Rav Yehuda Amarav, Melamed shebikesh laholmo, v'loholmaso. He wanted to put on there was a crown that David HaMelech wore. And he wanted to put it on, it wouldn't fit him. Rashi over there in the Gemara explains that in the middle of the crown was like a golden bar. And in the skull of Beis David, there was like something that elevated that the crown only fit a certain person. Somebody who has this kind of ditch in his skull. And that's Eidus, that he's from Beis David. And whoever was Roy Malchus, it had to fit his head. And it didn't fit Adoniyahu's head. Now, the Radak.
Ernie?
Yes.
Ernie?
Yes.
Ernie?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
I'm looking at the next coming psukim
Yes.
and the prior psukim, and the first 12 or 13 psukim all start with a vav in this paragraph.
But the reason why here it's relevant, because now we've changed subjects. The first four psukim dealt with David and Abishag Ashuramit. That whole episode, he was cold.
Sure.
They had to bring in a Mishareses. Now, the Perek reveals to us Adoniyahu, the son, now wants to be king, which is going to be the main subject matter of this parak. So the vav achibur connects. Okay, we'll have to see whether the other vavs connect as well. And we'll see in a minute why Adoniyahu thought, Adoniyah, here where he's called Adoniyah, why he thought he should be king. Pasuk vav. Below atzavo aviv miyamav lemor. Rashi says, lo hichiso. Limdecha kosuv shamoneh toichom mibno mevil de misa. David HaMelech had never chastised Adoniah. He never gave him discipline. And Rashi says that from this comes out that the children will go off the derech if you don't give them enough discipline.
Ernie, it seems like that was David HaMelech's modus operandi vis-a-vis his relationship with his children.
Hands off.
And it would be interesting to contrast Avshalom and Adoniah. They had lots of similarities, but it still wasn't the same type of rebellion that Avshalom, did, amassing, people. Here, Adoniah is taking advantage of his father's physical condition.
But
I don't think-
Barbara is correct. We're going to see a lot of analogies to Avshalom. One of them is the Pasuk Vav, and the Radak is going to pick this up, says that Adoniah was Yefei Toar. He was handsome. And the Radak says over there, the people went after people who were good looking. Exactly what happened with Avshalom. When we were introduced to Avshalom, it also said he was Yefei Toar. And what made me think is John F. Kennedy, JFK. That means prior to 1960, the presidency was not a popularity contest. Eisenhower was a general, was very accomplished. He was the commander in Europe. Truman was a senator. Roosevelt was a governor in New York. Of course. Anyways, JFK, the debates in October 1960 with Richard Nixon, here he has this photogenic, telegenic person. Nixon had a beard, sweating, and they say that the election, that's the first elect, the making of a president. So, but you see, even in ancient times, the appearance of the person attracted people. We see it here by Adoniah. Now, I'm going to bring back the Shmuel Beis, Perek Gimel. It says, "Vayivaldu David banim bechevron, vayi bechoro Amnon, u'mishneu Kil'av, ve'ashlishi Avshalom ben Macha, va'revi Adoniah ben Chagit." Now, Amnon was killed, right, by Avshalom because of Tamar. Kilav, Chazal say, died. Avshalom was killed in the rebellion. Adoniah is the next brother. In that, of course, later on when they moved to Yerushalayim, because they were in Hebron for 7 years, king, that's where he married Bathsheba, and that's when he had Shlomo HaMelech. Shlomo HaMelech at this time is 12 years old. Adoniah is 40 years old. So some say that it was not intent for Adoniah to revolt against his father like Avshalom. Rather, that he would be king until Shlomo HaMelech is older, right? Shlomo is 12, so he would wait until he's 20 years old. He'll be more roy to be king. And that is perhaps Adoniah's kavanah here.
1-3-8-4-0-7-5
Shlomo HaMelech is too young.
is not available.
We're going to see.
Hi, Ahuva.
Maria, can you?
It's
mute
on
the
already.
person?
It's on. It
I
started at
can't,
8.
I
Okay.
can't,
Okay,
mute
bye-bye.
anybody.
Okay.
Please record your message.
Please
I
mute.
So
can't.
everyone make sure they
Sarah,
mute.
please mute yourself, everybody.
Everybody.
Everyone mute until you want to speak up, and then of course unmute. Now we're going to see that Yoav ben Sruya, the chief of staff, and Evyasar HaKohen is the Kohen Gadol, followed Adoniah. They probably had the same svara that Shlomo is 12 years old. They did not know about the shvua that David HaMelech made to Bathsheba. We'll see soon. We haven't learned it befeirush, but it's mentioned Divrei Yomim that David promised Bathsheba with a shvua that Shlomo would be king.
No, so now Navi actually told David, and or
Then
told
he
Bathsheba.
told David in Divrei Yomim, and we'll read that pasuk when we get to Nosna Navi. That, but by the way, so v'lo tzavu aviv miyam of leimor. We're back to pasuk vav. Madua kachasita. David never told Adoniah, why did you do this bad thing? The gamu tov toar me'od. The oto yalda achrei Avshalom. The pasuk is giving us these details because we want to know that he fits in and as the next person to the king, at least in the order of how they were born. And again, the connection, like Barbara said to Avshalom, Rashi says, the gamu tov toar kavshalom shenemar uchavshalom lohaya ish yafeh. He garma lahem shenitgau. The fact that they were good looking caused them to fall into this trap that they became haughty. Pasuk Vav. By the way, Chazal learned from this. There's a Medrash Rabban Koheles, Tov Kas Mischok. And the Medrash there says, Omer Shloimo, Ilu Kas Abba Alodonio Kima, Tovaylo Mischok Shesachal of Midas Adin. Adoniah is going to end up being killed because of the fact that he wasn't given enough discipline by his father.
Okay, mommy. What did you do, Lily?
Pasuk Zay. Vayud Varavim Yoav ben Sruya v'Marta Kohen. Vayazru achrei Adoniyahu.
What, Papa?
Look at Rashi. Look at Rashi. In Yoav ben Sruya.
No.
Fishaya Yodeya.
No juegue con eso.
That's George. George, put it on mute, please. I don't see George in the picture here.
Sorry.
No, just if you could mute. Thank you. So we're looking in Rashi, Pasuk Zion, Yoav ben Sruya. Lefishahaya Yodei Yoav, Shebelibo Shel David Olav al Shaharagas Avner, Va'amashav Avshalom. Yoav, in the back of his mind, knows that David cannot be happy with him. Yoav is the one who killed Avner, the chief of staff of Shola Melech, and then the Amosha, the Avshalom. And so far, Shiitzaves no Amalek Tachtav Alav. Yoav already is figuring politically that whoever's going to take over after David is going to tell him to take Nakam against Yoav. So Yoav would rather have Adoniah rule because he's in good with Adoniah and he'll be protected more. What about Evyatar Kohen Rashi? V'im Evyatar Kohen shenistalek min ha'kuhuna mishaborach David Mishalayim mipnei Avshalom. That when David ran away from Yerushalayim, he fired him from the kahuna. Sheshol bu'urim v'tumim v'lasalo. He had asked Evyatar to ask a shaila from the Urim v'tumim. It didn't come up. Shenemar vayal Evyatar. And then V'hayim Meibonav Shel Eli. If we remember, David is going to eventually appoint Tzadok HaKohen to be the Kohen Gadol, away from the family of Eli. Eli HaKohen, remember at the time, he didn't give Musar to his sons, and a klala came out that his children will not live long lives, and the kahuna will be removed from him. The Yadashalo Yishamish B'mei Shlomo. Evyatar already knew that he would not serve as the Kohen Gadol in the time of Shlomo. Sharei Nemar LeEli V'Akimoti Li Kohen Eman V'Yitalech Lifnei Meshichi V'Haya Chafetz Sheyamod Zel Yado. So Evyatar figured the longer we delay Shlomo HaMelech from becoming king, the longer that I'll be Kohen Gadol. The Ralbag learns the same way, that by supporting Adoniah, it helped them politically. So politics was the same game that it's played today. However,
Politics.
in contrast, see this.
Eli's sons were big Rashaim.
Right, and Eli didn't give Musar to them, so because of that, Eli was punished. Now, there was already a nevuah. Part of this nevuah was when Eli is given the klala, it says it's only going to happen when I'm in my ma'on. That means that's the Beis Hamikdash. When the Beis Hamikdash is going to be built in the time of Shlomo. So we didn't learn this in Shmuel, but in Divrei Yomim, Nosson Navi also tells David, "Vahi alai dvar Hashem lemor, dam larob shafachta, u'milchamot gdolot asita." He's telling David that you fought a lot of battles, you have a lot of blood on your hands. Lo tivne bayit lishmi. You will not be the one to build the bayis. Ki damim rabim shafachta. Hinei ben nolad lecha, hu yiyeh ish menucha, v'anichosi lo mikol oivav. He will be born, he will be a man of peace. Ki shlomo yiyeh shemo, v'shalom v'sheket eiten Yisrael b'amav, hu yivne bayit lishmi. So Nosna Navi and Divrei Yomim, there were revealed in the nevuah that is given to David that they were already told that Shlomo was the one who's going to build the Beis Hamikdash. So Evyatar figures that as long as Adoniah is going to be Melech, the Beis Hamikdash will not be built, and he'll stay the Kohen Gadol. Now, why did Adoniah want Yoav and Evyatar? Well, they're the ones who helped David become king. We had many examples of Yoav fought all of his battles. So it was good politically for Adoniah. Pasuk Ches, V'tzadok HaKohen, Uvnayahu, who eventually is going to be the Kohen Gadol. Uvnayahu ben Yehoyada, who's the head of the Sanhedrin. V'Nosson Navi, Nosson is the Navi. V'Shimi. So some say that this is Shimi ben Gera, who initially was an enemy of David, but now has engraced himself again with him. V'Rei, which is Chushi ha'Arki. If you remember, David HaMelech had a good friend that he left in Yerushalayim, sort of to be a spy against Avshalom. The Hagiborim Asher David, the ones that were mentioned at the end of Shmuel, Adinoah Atzani, Elazar ben Dodo, Shema ben Agat, all of the various soldiers that were with David that are mentioned at the end of Shmuel Bet. They lo haya im Adoniyahu. All of a sudden, we've been calling Adoniah, and all of a sudden here, it switches and it says Adoniyahu. What's this? That really his name was Adonijah. But now he's having a rebellion. The pasuk adds a vav that the chol tachlito umauto hayasha kol yomru Adonihu. The whole purpose why he wanted to be king, he wanted people to say, he is my master. And that's the revolt. And that's why the Navi Yirmiyah switches his name from Adonijah to Adoniyahu in this pasuk, to show that these people were not with him. They were not maskim that he should be the Adonihu. That they're not they're showing that they're not part of this rebellion. Now, the Mutzra Nevi'im says, Nira od lahosi, mishum shapagam shayabav shalom, balo machmas imo. Remember, the mother of Avshalom was the Yefas Toar. Kemosha Amru a woman taken prisoner by David. Kemosha Amru b'Sanhedrin, the Lakach Yatzav Shalom l'Tarbus Ra, machma shaya ben Yefas Toar. V'lachein tolu es Adoniyo gam hein be'em Avshalom loymar, shigam hu haya domeh k'mi shaya ben Yefas Toar. He also didn't get the right discipline from his mother. So you see the importance of a mother bringing up the children properly. It's not just the father, it's also the mother. Now, David HaMelech seems to, from his own, made a shvua to Bathsheba that Shlomo would be king. Eventually, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was masking, because you see, we read the nevuah of Nosna Navi. So what's the reason for this? So Rashi in Bamidbar, on the pasuk V'haisa lo ulzaro acharav bris kunasoilon. This is when the kahuna was granted to Pinchas, because Pinchas is not a child of Aaron HaKohen. At that point, the children of Aaron were the only Kohanim. Eventually, it's given to Pinchas. Sha'af al pi shekvar not bekahuna l'zar shel Aaron lo nitna el la'aron levonav shenimshchu l'mol todoseyim she'yivadu acham shachoson. At this point, the only people that could be Kohanim are the children of Aaron's children. Aval Pinchas, shenolad kodem lachem. Pinchas was born before this. V'lo nimshach, he was not anointed. Lo balach lal kahuna ad ma'aseh Zimri. Until Pinchas stood up and did an act of kanos and killed Zimri, he wasn't roy to be the kohen. And we also learn in Masechta Zvachim Kuf Aleph Amud Beis, Lo niskain Pinchas ha'chargal Zimri. So according to this, the Mishu Nimshach LaMelech Yisrael Eina Bonima Noladim Lo V'Kodem Lezeh B'Chlal Yerusha Samlucha. So it's not necessarily that the children born to a father before he was Nimshach are Roy B'Yerusha to be the king. Kihem Harei Noldu Eitzel Hedyo. V'Rak HaBanim Noladim Achar Kach Ru'im L'Mlucha. So only the sons are going to be born after David was anointed. So what's going on? In Shmuel Beis, after the death of Ishbosheth, Bau Ziknei Yisrael al David, Chevrona, V'Kiblu Oso L'Melech. David ruled as king in Hebron for 7 years. It's only after that, when Ishbosheth died, that the Skenim came to David. V'az mashchu oto, v'nimtza de'ad oto azman lo haya od melech gamur al Yisrael. Shmuel had anointed him, but up until then he was only king over Hebron, not over Gans Klal Yisrael. Only after 7 years in Hebron and after all of those children had been born, Shlomo was born after he went through Shalayim. Even though Nimshach Haydei Shmuel Navi, Ki Limshicha Boin Gam Dasat Zibur. It's not just enough that the Navi anoints the person. We learned before about democracy, John Locke, that it requires the consent of the governed. It's already says in Chazal, Ein ma meeting parnas al tzibur, ela im kenim lachem b'tzibur. The tzibur has to agree to it. V'lachein hayu tzrichin az l'mshichas chadasha. So when he came to Yerushalayim, David HaMelech was anointed again. And it says clearly in Shmuel Beis Per Gimel that Adoniah was nolad b'Chevron. Kodem shenishtach David HaMelech al Kol Yisrael. Before he was anointed king over all of Israel. Aval Shlomo nolad b'Yerushalayim. Achrei Mashiach Shalom. So Midin, he was the appropriate Yorish of the Malchus. That means even though according to chronological age, as we mentioned, Adoniah is much older than Shlomo. Shlomo is the rightful heir. Even though it says that David had other children in Yerushalayim, but they came from the Pilagshim. They were not full wives, and therefore they were not roy to be Yorish the Malchus. Okay, I thought that was very interesting. Okay, Pasuk Tes. Vayizbach Adoniyahu tzon v'karum ri. Adoniyahu is offering korbanos publicly. Im even azocheles. What is the even azocheles? Rashi says even gedoyla shahayu abachurim nasim bo as kocham lazizau legarara. It was some large stone that the young men would compete their strength to move it. Lashon mayim zochalim, like water that runs. And the Yonasan says, Even sechusa she'oindim alev v'tzoifin lemrachok. It was a stone that people would stand up on and see you far away. Eitzel asher eitzel ein rogel. That is near a place called Ein. Ein is always a ma'ayan, a spring. And the rogel, Rashi says, who koves, like a launderer. They would sort of stomp on the wool with their feet to make it smoother. like Lucy in the I Love Lucy show when she stomps the grapes with the she stomps the grapes, it's the same thing. Here they would stomp the laundry. And the Medrash, actually, Gemara in Sanhedrin Kuf Yud, Omer Aleph says, Omer Rabbi Yossi, Kol hachoylek al Malchus Beis David roi lachisho nachash. Whoever argues with Malchus Beis David, a snake should bite him. Where's this? Ksivacha vayizbach Adonai yotzonu b'kol mriyim even azocheles. Uksivasam im chamaz zochalei afar. Zochalei afar are those animals that crawl around in the dirt. Who's that? A snake. So Chazal see in that like a curse against Adoniah, who was revolting against the king. Now, what isn't it a little bit of a detail? Let's just finish the pasuk. Vaikrat kol achav bnei hamelech, and he called his brothers, and the people of Judea. Now, why do we have to be told in detail where all of this took place? So it's showing us the intent of Adoniah. He's doing it publicly. He wants to become king. But he does it in a public place. He's making a party for everybody. The EIM says these were places that naturally drew crowds, like a picnic ground. And he's like a politician that's gathering people so he can kiss the babies and hand out cigars. We see Avshalom did the same thing in Hebron. He didn't tell them that he's trying to be king. He was just glad-handing. He was going around making people like him. Just so we know, the Rambam learns in Hilchos Melachim, Ein ma'amidim melech betchila el al pi beis din shel shivim zakenim. First, you need Sanhedrin and ve'al pi Navi. Ki Yoshua sheminei Moshe Rabbeinu beis dino. When Yoshua was appointed Moshe Rabbeinu, he had a beis din, and he had the Navi Moshe. Ucheshol v'David sheminim shmuel ramasu beis dino. So Adoniyahu is not being declared king here. There's no Sanhedrin, there's no Navi.
You also need a Kohen Gadol.
You need the Kohen Gadol for the Mashiach if the Navi is not there. So this is a political move. Clearly, yes.
Ernie, would you say he felt very confident that he would, I mean, he had his brothers come along and that nobody, and didn't they know, they didn't know that Shlomo was the one that David had wanted?
So
follow?
either they didn't know,
No, or
either they didn't know, or like we learned Pshat, Adoniah is going to just rule until Shlomo is older.
oh right,
Shlomo's 12 years old here. So
Adoniah.
perhaps he's
Right.
told his brothers, I'm just going to be king for a period of time until Shlomo's ready.
According to Medrashim, Adoniah felt that David loved him. I guess because he didn't criticize him, but he felt that his father really loved him and would have wanted him to be king.
Yes. Absolutely.
Malchei bnei David don't need Mashiach.
Yeah, we're going to see, Tzvi asked the question, Malchei Beis David, well, a Melech ben Melech does not require Mashiach. Tzvi is asking correctly.
Right.
Unless there is a struggle, a machlokes. So we're going to see David HaMelech, in fact, anoints Shlomo publicly because there's this machlokes. And then, of course, there's other things in the background. Who is Shlomo's mother? Bathsheba. There's all rumors in the community. They knew that Bathsheba was married to Uri Achiti. You know how people talk. So there was a lot of bad blood. And so eventually the Mashiach of Shlomo HaMelech is going to be done to put that all to rest. But later on, kings, a son of a king would not necessarily acquire Mashiach. And the Chazal say, unless there's a machlokes. So Pasuk Yud, lo kara. He didn't call the Navi and the Sanhedrin. Now, Shlomo definitely knew, Rashi says, Shlomo himself knew that he was going to be king. That Nevuah was said to David about him that he was going to be king. So Adoniyahu didn't want Shlomo to be there. Yud Aleph. Vayomer Nasan al Bathsheva aim Shlomo lemo. So Nasan Navi goes to Bathsheva, the mother of Shlomo. Alo shamata ki malach Adoniyahu. Have you heard that Adoniyahu is going around declaring himself king? Va'adonenu David lo yada. And David HaMelech doesn't know.
Ernie, I often wonder in a situation, I would only assume that because David is sick and not well, that he doesn't know what is going on right, under his nose. You would think, like you think of court and intrigue and spies. And I would assume that maybe because he's sick that he's not aware of this.
That's what we learned. We clearly learned that last week, that he was alone with Avishag. People didn't go in because of tznius reasons.
Right.
He was isolated from the news.
Oh.
Now, the Abarbanel asks a question. Nasan Navi is going to create a whole intrigue here. He's going to tell Bathsheba to go in to speak to David, and then Nasan Navi is going to come in himself and repeat what goes on. I don't understand, says the Abarbanel. Didn't Nosna Navi gave a nevuah to David that Shlomo is going to be the king?
Right.
So the Abarbanel says, Ulish Shoel, Sheyishal, Eich Natana Navi lo emin b'nevuato. This is the Abarbanel asking. How come Nosna Navi didn't have faith enough in his nevuah? Sheshlomo imloch v'nitztarech l'chol ha'hishtadlut hazeh. Right? Remember, Yosef HaTzadik is given 2 extra years in jail in Egypt because he asks the Sarah Mashkim to put in a good word to him, to Paro. Right? Rashi there quotes the Chazal that Yosef shouldn't have done that. He should have had faith that Hashem is going to take him out of there. Because of that, Yosef was kept in prison another 2 years. So the same thing here. How come Nosson does all this hishtadlus? How come he's not taken to task that he doesn't have emunah in the nevuah? Says the Abarbanel, Hinei Navi, hamesapek al nevuato, over al dat v'chayiv misa. A Navi who is in doubt about his nevuah, he's chayiv misa. So the Abarbanel Neshiva v'nomar, Shayudima Elokim Heim al Tnai. When a nevuah is given, it's conditional. V'lachen hayay efshar shehaya Yehuda hu chozer leched David o Shlomo o Batsheva v'shnichem Hashem me'atova. Could be that the sin of David or Shlomo or Batsheva will come back to Kodesh Baruch Hu, and he'll have some kind of taiva sheyakim Hashem varo. Now, you can ask on this from the Rambam, so the Torah, the following: Divrei Apuranut Sha'anavi Omer. If the Navi says something bad, Kigon Shiyomer Ploni Yomus, Oshana Plonis Rav, or this year is going to be famine, O Melchama. So Imlo Amdu Dvarav, if those predictions don't come true, Ein Bazeh HaKoshel Nevuosa. It doesn't prove that he's a Navi Sheker. The Ein Oimri Minei Davar V'lo Ba. Now, why is that? Shakadosh Baruch Hu Erech HaPayim, V'Rav Chesed, V'Nicham Al Hara'ah, V'Efsher Sha'asu Tshuva, V'Nislach Lahem, Ke'anshei Ninveh. In Sefer Yonah, where we read on Yom Kippur, there's a nevuah given that Nineveh is going to be destroyed. Well, how come that? Well, in the end, it's not destroyed. Well, why do we say it's a nevuah sheker? No, because they did tshuva. So things can change. However, says the Rambam, im hivtiach al tova, the amar sheyekach v'kach v'lo ba toiva she'omar v'yadua shu navi sheker. How do you know that a Navi is a Navi Sheker? He says something good is going to happen, it doesn't happen, he's a Navi Sheker. Shekol Dover Toiva Sheyigzor Akel Afilo Atnai Ein Chozer. So, again, we ask, why did Nosson is doing all this Hishtadlus? His Nevuah was good. And it's not going to go back. So the EAM says, Mikol Mokon, Roy Loy Lidok Shlo Yiskai Nevuas La Yedei Tsar. So yeah, there's going to be some. It's royally spalel ulishtadel. So even for something good, Nosson Navi felt that he had to do as much hishtadlus as he could. Pasuk Yud Beis. So what does Nosson Navi tell Batsheva? V'atalachi yatzechna etza. Take my advice. Umaltias nafsheich. Save your life. There's nefesh b'nei Shlomo, and save, says Rashi min machlokes la'achar mosa melech. Save yourself from severe conflict that's going to occur after David HaMelech dies. Your son's going to want to rule. HaKadosh Baruch Hu promised him. You'll have to fight over it. So, Pasuk Yud Gimel, L'chiu voy lamelech David, go to the king. V'amarte lav alo ata adoni hamelech. You, David, nishbata lamascha lemor. You made a shvua to me. Shlomo vnech yimloch acharai. That my son Shlomo will rule. V'hu yeshev al kisi. And he will sit on the throne. Umadua malach Adonai. And why is Adoniyahu ruling? Nosna Navi continues. You will be speaking with David. And I will come immediately in. I will sort of repeat it. I'll fill in your words. I will add koyach to it. Now, from here, the Gemara in the Yerushalmi in Peah learns, Rav Shmuel ben Achmed b'shem Rav Yochanan, mutar loymar lashon hara al bali machloikes. Basically, Nosna Navi he's going to come in and repeat all of this bad stuff about Adoniah. It's lashon hara. You're allowed to say lashon hara on somebody who's making machloikes.
Even stronger than that, the Me'am Loy said more than lashon hara is if it came to a battle between the two, blood would be spilled if after David, if it was not settled before David died.
Okay. What was it, Bernie? Could you? That even if blood was spilled,
That Nasan Navi was worried that if Bathsheba didn't go with him to speak to David HaMelech, and it was left as an open question who would be Melech after him, if Adoniyahu thought he would be, and he may not want to give up the Malchus, then it would come to blood. Potential blood being spilled. So that's why he felt that was stronger than the negative aspect of lashon hara.
So the Radak, that there was chashash misa, that Adoniyahu was going to kill Bathsheba and Shlomo if he would be king. So certainly, if it's Safek Nefashos, it would be permitted for Nasan to say it to David. It's not lashon hara; it's saving lives. But according to Rashi, where it's just machloikas that they were worried about, not chashash misa. So there's a raya to the Yerushalmi that you can say lashon hara on a bal machloikas, right? Because if it's sakana nefashos, there's no proof that you can say lashon hara on a bal machloikas. So that's why Rashi learns his pshat. So what's the halacha lemaisa? So the Tzmag, the Sefer Mitzvahs Gedolos, and the Agois Maimonios on the Rambam, and the Mogen Avraham in Orach Chaim Kuf Nun Vav, bring this Yerushalmi, the Yesh Heter Loimer Lashon Hara Bal Machlokes, that you can say Lashon Hara on a Bal Machlokes. They use this. Says the Chafetz Chaim in the dinim of Lashon Hara. Da the Mashiach Oimri Mutar L'Saper Lashon Hara Bal Machlokes Dafka Im Hu Ro'esh Al Yedei Sheyiglel Lifnei Nashim. If the person has to be certain that if he reveals something about the person as Gadol Tarmisam, that how evil the person is, B'zeh Yan, V'Yirushein Adin Imam, and the guy has no leg to stand on, and Mitoch Zeh Toshavas Machlokes, and therefore the Machlokes will be calmed down, then you can say it. Avol Balav Hachi Ein Shum Chiluk B'Davar. Otherwise, you can't say the Lashon Hara. So, in fact, the halachas of lashon hara are learned from this at least regarding Abba Machlokes, is learned from the statement of Nosna Navi. Pasuk Tezvav. Vatavo Batsheva lamelech hachadra. So Batsheva comes into the room. Vamelech zakein ma'od. And again, we're told that David is very old. Vavishaga shunamit misharat v'tamelech. And Avishag is serving the king, warming him up.
Why the need for that comment? Why, just to emphasize his condition?
And by the way, this is the pasuk we learned last week, that the Gemara brings the dialogue that Avishag said, "Oh, marry me," and Avishag sort of made a joke. Well, it's probably because you're so old. So that's when Bathsheba came in, and he had marital relations with Bathsheba even 7 times. That happened now. So we learned that pasuk last, but it's about this pasuk that occurs. Vatikod Batsheva, Vatishtachul HaMelech. Now, what's the difference between Kida and Ishtachava? So the Gemara says Kida is when you lie flat on your face. Ishtachava is when you fall to your knees. So by the way, on Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah, when we go down on Achnu Koirim, so sometimes we just go down on our knees. Sometimes we put our face. We do a kida as well. So there's a difference between kida and ishtachava. Now, was it normal that a wife had to bow to her husband, even though he was the melech? The answer is no. But she's coming in now without reshus, and without maybe they usually would have appointments. So this is an entrance that was lo regilah. And immediately David really recognizes that this is some kind of emergency need from the fact that his wife is bowing to her, to David HaMelech. Vatomer lo, so Bathsheba starts, Adoni ata nishbata b'Hashem lokech l'masecha. She reminds David that he had taken a shvuah. Shlomo b'nei Chim locha charai, v'hu yeshev al kisi. That Shlomo HaMelech, her son, would be the king. That's it. So Bathsheba reminds David that he took a shvuah. Now, what was the shvuah? And if you take the shvuah b'Hashem Elokecha, in the name of Hashem, it's a shvuah that you can't go to a chacham to be matter the shvuah. So this wasn't just a shvuah, this was a very strong shvuah. Bathsheba did not want to marry David. Only on the t'nai that he made a shvuah that the son would be king. He's gonna be roy on himself. He's gonna deserve it himself. Why the double language? That Kishlomo b'nei Chimloch, and also Hu Yeshev al Kisi. So the Rinas Yitzchak says there's 2 dinim malchus. There's a din of malchus based David and a din of malchus Yisrael. Because we'll see later on in the time of Yerovam ben Nevat, there were 2 kings, malchus based David and malchus Yisrael. And the shvuah was that he would be melech al kol Yisrael. And the kisei The Kisei David is the Malchus Beis David. What's the nafkamina? Chazal say Ein Yeshiva Bazar LaMalchus Beis David Bilvad. That the only people who could sit in the Azar, the Beis Hamikdash, if you came from the house of David. Not only that, Malchus Beis David, there's a haftacha that it's going to be Makayim eternally. Pasuk Yud Ches, ve'ata hinei Adoniyahu malach, ve'ata Adoniyahu melech lo yadata. Adoniyahu is going around claiming that he's the king, and you, I'm afraid, David, don't know that it's going on. What's going on? Vayizbach shorm rivet on laro. He's offering korbanos. Vayikra l'chol bnei hamelech. He's calling to all his other brothers. Ulev Kohen u'Yoav tzar tzava. To Vyasar the Kohen Gadol and to Yoav the general. But v'lishlomo avdecha lo kara. But to Shlomo and me, we were not called. Ve'ata adonai hamelech einei chol Yisrael alecha. The people's eyes are still on you. And on nobody else. And l'chura, you, David, have not informed the people of the succession plan of who's going to sit on your throne. So the question we have to ask, why didn't David announce a long time ago who's going to be the king? The l'chora, up until this point, it seems clear that the people don't know about it. So, and he's getting older. So if he doesn't announce this, Shlomo Melech is not going to rule. He's not the Bechor. He's not the oldest. We already said Adoniah is 40 years old. Shlomo is 12. So the Yeyayam asks this. He says the Chashash David lo dias daito shiamlichus anar Shlomo shamis nagdulo. He's already had experience with Am Yisrael following Avshalom. Maybe they're not going to go along with having this 12-year-old boy rule. So he was waiting. David HaMelech doesn't know when he's going to pass away. He's waiting until Shlomo Melech is older. And the people may have, anyways. Chafala. Vayakish Chavarani Amelachim Avotav. Ani uvni vayiti ani uvni Shlomo Chataim. And after you pass away, after 120, me and my son, we're going to be Chataim. Either we're going to be invisible, we're going to be Chaserim min ha'olam, and Adoniah will kill us, just like Shaul wanted to kill David. Or the Radak and the Rabag and Kliyakar say the people are going to really think that we were Chatoim, that it's going to remind them of the Chet Bat Sheva after David's death. And maybe I was Asur because of Uri Achiti. And that's why my son wasn't chosen to be the king. So we're going to be considered Choitim. Wow, I can't believe it's already 9 o'clock. Okay, I was hoping to get a little further into the Perek. Does anybody have any other comments or arrows before we conclude tonight's session?
How old was Shlomo Melech when he became king?
30 years old. He's now 70. He's been king for 40 years, 7 years in Hebron, and 33 years in Yerushalayim.
Shlomo
Shlomo is now 12 years old.
12.
But how old was he when he became king? That's what David asked.
He's gonna be 12 years
Oh.
old. Shlomo was
Well,
12 years old.
12.
I thought he asked about David. Shlomo is 12 years old. Well, he's going to become king right now. In the end of this parak, David is going to arrange for the Mashiach of Shlomo while David is alive, to solve all of the problems.
Thank you so much, Ernie.
And everyone should have a refuah shlema that we were learning the